Okay, hey, welcome everybody to another edition of Wow, You Made That. This is a podcast where we talk about all things handmade. No AI here yet. We'll see. I'd like to move into all kinds of other creative fields, stuff that you do by hand. Yeah, I can keep these going, and just talk about how a lot of it is going away. So, if you like it, you got to encourage it. You got to teach it. You got to do it. Gotta get out there and make things by hand. Don't just sit on your ass all day at that computer. I mean, I love the computer too, but come on. Time to get out there and make some stuff. Today we're going to be talking to a guy from Chicago. His name is Renato Velarde. Now, this is an interesting story. He started following me on Instagram, and he started asking a lot of questions, and he kind of hustled me to come out and hang out with me for like 2-3 days in my shop. And he just wanted to see my shop and watch me work. And just kind of, he helped out quite a bit, actually. And he's a good dude. He helped me with a project. That's cool. He wants to give me some free labor. I'll always take that. Anyhow, let's get into it with him. Here we go with Renato. Hello, I'm here with Renato Velarde. He's a buddy of mine that I met on Instagram. And he was able to come out and visit me in Portland, Oregon. And we're going to get into it with him a little bit here. How you doing, Renato?
Hey everybody out there in wherever we're talking to.
So, we know each other from Instagram, and we first met at Wonderfest in Louisville. Mm-hmm. And you wanted to go down there and just check it out, or what?
Yeah. Let's see. Well, like there's a lot of kind of model making and cool stuff on Instagram. I think I just followed your stuff that was like. It's kind of, well, I think I was telling you recently about, like, I don't usually get starstruck. So it seems weird, but it's like I'm slightly starstruck with seeing some of your work. So I'm like,
wow.
Oh, okay. I was like, this guy, but I didn't want to freak you out and be a weirdo, you know. So
like a stalker.
I was like, oh, Wonderfest looks cool. I hadn't actually been to one of those before, so I asked my girlfriend to, like, check out this thing. It's actually not that, for some reason I didn't realize. I'm in Chicago, that Louisville is not that far. It's like 4 hours or something. I was like, oh, let's go make a fun weekend of it. And it was fun. It was otherwise really fun, too. Like, everything else was fun. I was like, see the talk you did to talk about Rocketeer and stuff. Right.
Wonderfest was a good time.
Really neat.
Yeah. Now, you're in Chicago, and what is your primary business? What do you do there?
I do video stuff, so like video production. I shoot and edit and then make weird stuff too, which is I'd say almost more of a hobbyist making things. That's kind of why I dig around on Instagram for more of that stuff, because I'm like, oh, I'm not really that good at that. But regular work to me is shooting, I guess, small commercials, kind of web stuff, educational things. It used to be lots of documentary.
Primary video, primarily?
Yeah, video.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Used to be film a long time ago, but nobody shoots film, so.
Right. But that's how you got started back. You're originally from Michigan.
Yep. Mm-hmm. From Lansing. Yeah, and you're from Detroit too, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
I think a common thread for both of us is the Ann Arbor Film Festival.
Oh, yeah. Ann Arbor Festival. I forgot yeah. Yeah, I lived in Ann Arbor a long time. I have weird stories of that. I don't know how much I should even say about that, because I knew people that worked at the festival and stuff like that. There's lots of tours. Oh, so I shot film for the first time, and I decided I was a film geek, so I was like, I'm going to shoot. I got a Bolex for the first time. I wanted to learn film so bad, couldn't figure out what to do next, so I shot, and I had a daylight 100-foot roll. That's like it's 2.5, 3 minutes.
Right.
Silent, black and white or whatever.
Right.
I got an old light meter that I'm not even sure if it works. And I was like, okay, I gotta figure this out. Do step by step. Hold it to the light and get the reading and do it real slow. But I had this weird obsession of, like, if the first roll of film I ever make, I want to try and make an actual film, edit in camera, and enter it into that festival, because I had a beef with somebody who ran the festival.
Right.
And the theme would be and I had thought this for a long time before that. If I ever make a film, the first film I want to make is my frustration with all movies, is the things that you never see in movies.
Right.
So it was called, it just marker on the fridge. I filmed the titles. It was like the missing scene from all movies or all the greatest films, which was just somebody using the bathroom, somebody getting up out of bed, using the bathroom, and eating really sloppy close up, and that was it. It was like me sitting on the toilet, getting out of bed and stuff. And the director of the festival was really mad.
Oh, really? So you submitted it?
So I submitted it, actually.
Yeah.
So I got it back.
You edited in camera, and then you submitted it.
Yeah. I think I actually did a couple cuts in it, but whatever. It was
minor.
It was that, 3 minutes or something.
Right. And
submitted it. Well, because I knew, I had a whole long story, connection with somebody in the festival and everything. But I knew that they screened them. I knew where they screened them and everything. I knew some people involved with it. But I knew they have these little things where everybody gets together and sits in this dark room, and they have to watch every single one to even cut them out. And so they watched it, and then of course they didn't accept it, but they didn't get into the festival, but they had to watch it.
Right.
And I knew she was mad because I knew somebody third hand. She said, "Oh, that's not appropriate," and whatever. And I was like, "Really? Have you watched any other films in this festival?"
Have you seen some of the stuff at the Ann Arbor Film Festival? I mean,
and it was a little bit of a parody of that stuff too, because I'd been to it a lot.
Yeah.
And there's stuff that's like a high pitched tone and some flickering images for 10 minutes, and like, how is this not appropriate when a festival's like some trash like that in it? And not trash, but I'm cynical about some of the avant-garde stuff. So.
Right, I am too.
So that was my first film, really, first 16mm film.
But it achieved the goal you'd set.
It achieved the goal, and it got me, the bug, really, of like, oh, it's not that hard. It came out, most of it came out exposed. That was really the real, it was like, doing it and not being afraid,
Yeah, an elaborate test.
Yeah, and seeing it projected, when you get it back from the lab, you don't get that satisfaction anymore.
No.
Of course, it's great seeing your film when you shoot it well, and it's amazing what you can do now, but
sure.
Sending a roll away, having all that time, and all you've put into it, you cannot watch it through the viewfinder, really. Right. And then you get it back, and it's just magical. Seeing it projected that way in the grain, there's a depth you don't experience, at least then, definitely with video, you don't experience that depth.
Right.
It was beautiful. It was exciting. And then that first time I was like, wow. And of course then, even though it was the first, I was like, of course I'm going to submit this. It's amazing, even though it was a crappy film.
Right. So you really got bitten by the bug. This was what, you were in high school, out of high school?
No, out of high school. I was just working in restaurants and stuff in Ann Arbor.
18, 19, 20?
19, yeah. I think. Yeah. 19 or 20. Yeah.
And that's when you got bit by the film bug.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But then it took off from there. Then you became a collector?
Yeah, I kind of collected cameras because I didn't have a lot of money. So there's pawn shops, thrift shops. It's mostly Super 8. 16mm is more expensive, obviously. So. Yeah. But you could still find junk. So that movie that I did, that 16mm one, where my camera was mostly, it was a Bolex. Found one for like $100 at a flea market or something.
Right.
It worked fine. You just crank it with your hand, and
and
then I had another one that was a Bell and Howell. It was Bell and Howell Filmo or something with a turret.
Yeah.
And it's like a tank. It's like iron.
Right.
I think they would mount those on planes in World War II or something.
That's awesome.
It's cool. It worked.
Yeah.
Just a big key, you spin it, and I shot some scenes with that in that same first one.
That's cool.
It's cool. And you have those little C-mount lenses. They look like they've been thrown off a building.
Right.
They work fine. So cool. And Super 8, I ended up having piles of Super 8 cameras.
So it became quite an obsession for you.
Yeah. If you don't have money and you find the junk ones that seem to work, it's like, you just...
For a couple bucks.
Becomes a collection rather than a career,
Yeah.
It's like, if you can't get in, it's like, we can get the junk and obsess over that at least.
Do you have many of them, or have you been getting rid of them?
I'm picky now. I try to only have stuff that works. So I had a lot, and hoping, I don't know. So eventually it's just too much junk, and I got rid of a lot. Right. I have a handful left now, but no, I only have like 2 or 3 left. It's Super 8.
Now, as a professional career, did you ever shoot film, or have you only done professionally video?
Mostly video. I guess a tiny bit. I worked on stuff that was filmed when people were doing
way early on.
Yeah, when people were doing that. I worked on some features in Chicago early on.
Right.
When everybody was shooting Super 16 still.
Right.
All the low budget features used to be Super 16.
Yeah, let's divert here because this is interesting. Let's talk for a few minutes about the world of extras in Chicago.
Oh wow, yeah. Whew.
You tried that, or you were thinking about trying it?
did a bunch of weird things like that, just making ends. Because I moved to Chicago after that stuff in Ann Arbor. Because like, my girlfriend was from Chicago, so we moved there, and um, I worked on video stuff first. But somehow I got into that world of like, there's big movies every summer.
Right.
So you meet somebody that will give you a number, and then you get onto a movie. You be a PA or whatever, and then sometimes that ends up being, I don't know how. Maybe it was Craigslist or something. And I knew somebody too. Anyway, you get there, you get like 50. Sometimes if you're lucky, $100 a day. You go into a big, like a holding area somewhere. Right. Sometimes on Navy Pier they rent a banquet hall, and there's like 1,000 people. The strange extras too. Actually, there's a lot of people that are kind of like that's all they do is extra work.
Right.
And they're just, it's just strange to me. I mean,
sure.
I'm sure that's a fine career. It's just. It's weird to me. Like, I don't care. I need money, really, and I wanted to. I guess movies are my thing. If I didn't want to get a restaurant job again, you do something movie related, even if it's low budget. But I don't care about being near celebrities personally. But man, some people are like, it's just being stuck because you have to wait. You have one scene, maybe you wait maybe 6 hours.
Yeah.
And then they'll drive you to the scene. You're in the background, out of focus probably, on whatever's happening. And then that's it. It's like a few minutes. They roll. They do a couple takes or whatever, and then they take you back, and you're done.
Right.
Or you wait again, and you do another scene far in the background. And they're picky too. So like, if even you're in the distant background, out of focus, they don't want you again for another scene in case somebody somehow
figures
out that I've seen that guy before.
Right.
But the other people, there's people that are like all buzzing and all like a lot of these what seems like really kind of lifer kind of. I don't know how to be. I don't want to be mean about it, but people who are really excited to be near movie stuff and extras.
Sure.
Seem to all have a kind of a story that they've heard from somebody else, from somebody's cousin, of somebody who was an extra, who some director or somebody saw them from far away and was like, "I want you. I'm going to make you a star."
Right.
Because I don't know, because they had some electric personality or sexy or whatever they were.
Right.
And then they were a star or something. I'm like, how many times has that? Yeah. I just don't buy that having happened that many times.
Maybe twice.
If ever.
In 80 years.
It sounds like it feels like how do you say it? Like a tall tale or something. It feels like.
Urban legend.
Yeah, urban legend.
Something like that, yeah.
So there's lots of that banter like that. And in the same day, there's lots of these little circles of people like looking to talk about how they were maybe one time they were on set and there was like Kevin Costner was over there, and he said hi to him and he was really nice or something. And like, I don't really care about that stuff, but.
So it's also like their lifestyle, their hobby.
Yeah, it's like a hobby, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a hobby, I guess, or a dream or something,
Right.
But I can't badmouth that because I just was saying the same thing about film Super 8 and 16 and
right.
Still that wasn't a super pro either, so.
Right.
It's a weird world. I did that on some of those earlier Batman reboots or remakes.
Yeah.
In the background for something.
Batman Begins and Dark Knight, that kind of stuff.
Dark Knight and whatever, because they shot a bunch of those in Chicago. And some kind of football movie in Evanston. There's a bunch of those. There's couple movies in Evanston. I don't know.
And from there, you rolled into doing video production.
Yeah, I kind of left. I worked at a commercial post house for a while. I had a weird sort of transition thing where I'm sort of like maybe you could how could you say it? Sort of a crazy liberal,
right?
Where I had this thing where it's like I sort of hate television and some of the way that sort of popular media portrays things. A lot of my stuff about getting into film and video in the first place was like, oh, if I don't like the way something is, or I don't know how the way TV or movies are produced, I should just do it. I should get involved. You can't complain if you don't just do it first.
Right.
I call it with some people the public access principle. I love that. When I've tried doing some of the public access workshops in Ann Arbor and a couple other places in Lansing, they were like, well, we allow anything here. So we're not going to turn off anything. There's like neo-Nazis would have shows and they would like call in racist shows in different towns in Michigan.
Wow. And
they said like, we will show anything. If you're offended, have a show. It's free. Come and do a show. We're not going to shut down other shows. Why wouldn't you just go do it yourself? And I was like, it's obvious, but I'm like, that's brilliant. Of course. Why am I sitting here bitching about it when I could just go learn it.
Right.
So I took that on a larger scale. Like that's partly why I got into it in the first place. Is like, oh, I can just do this stuff. I did stuff at the Detroit Film Coalition. They're amazing that same way. It's cheap. It's for people in the community. It changed me, It's really nice. So, so then eventually I had a friend who worked at a big commercial post house in Chicago. And she had an in, and she because she came from the Art Institute or something, and was like, oh, they need a runner. They need somebody in here. And there's no way I would ever get into a company like that.
Sure.
They got me in. I was the runner for a long time, so I was the kind of did all the running stuff. Like assisted the colorists and ran the telecine, and they have a big vault where there's like, at that time it was like a refrigerator. Those are their hard drives for the whole office.
Right.
It was probably like, I don't know what it would have been, 100 gigs or something.
Right.
And then they had a big telecine machine. They did like big things, McDonald's and Budweiser and that kind of stuff. I'm the first guy. I arrive there at 5 a.m. Then a runner arrives with the rolls of film, 35 millimeter, like a burger spinning or something. And they have a huge room, motion control system. I got to load them up in the telecine, get it all ready. And they have a Da Vinci. It's a second room, with the roller balls like Centipede.
Yeah.
Where you would color by hand then. I set it up. I set up a Photoshop slate that says what it is and everything. And then by like 8, the director comes in with the colorist and they're like, Ren, put it up on the telecine and run it through the gate and everything. And then I run a bunch of decks, run it into Digibeta, Super VHS, a million different formats. And they had these suitcase tapes, digital tapes that were like...
giant.
Yeah, like bigger than a record, but a couple inches thick or cool. And then at the end, and then you go through scene by scene. They color it and output digital and output to all those different formats.
Right.
And then we send them to all these agencies. And then I address them all. They send them all same day. So the director's got to do all that before like 8:30 or something.
Wow.
Got to be ready. So then that day they go back so they can tweak it if they want the cheese on the edge of a burger to be a little like, oh, we know to reshoot that part or whatever.
Right.
All for like a spinning glass of something or it was a weird world.
Yeah.
But that place was like, oh, everything I wanted to do, this is how it worked out. This is what I wanted, which is to get to this commercial place to like be part of the system that I didn't like,
right,
of that media. And I was like, oh, I'm here and I'm not doing anything now. I'm not fighting this. I'm not burning their stuff down or anything.
Right,
it's fun and it's cool.
Yeah.
And I still don't like the content of some of it, but
sure.
And I figured that out after 6 months, and I was kind of mad. I was like, I'm not doing anything. I saved a lot of money, but I hate this, and I'm doing what I wasn't supposed to do.
Right. You've become one of them.
Yeah. So I quit and moved to San Francisco for like a month. Spent everything I could quickly because I knew San Francisco was expensive.
Yeah.
And moved to North Carolina to study documentary.
So you went there to study documentary. Where'd you do that?
The Center for Documentary Studies. It's kind of a offshoot of Duke.
Okay.
They have like a big old southern house converted into kind of a bunch of classes and stuff. So I did darkroom. They had cool darkroom stuff. They do all the stills.
Really?
It's just an amazing program. It's cheap and they're not technical at all. They're all about the kind of social responsibility and how do you deal with communities that you're not part of and doing interview styles and kind of a lot of it's just a raw audio interview only. Like what we're doing, I guess.
Right here.
We had a little cassette tape recorder, and
right.
It was great. That was one of the best places I've ever learned from. Between that and the Detroit Film Coalition, I think it's Detroit Film Co-op now. It was awesome.
How long were you there in North Carolina?
I was trying to, because most of the people didn't. A couple of years. I was trying to do Super 8 then, which is sort of unrealistic for doing cheaper documentary films.
Right.
But I was still a Super 8 geek, so.
Well, what's good about it? I mean, it's what I argue for with Super 8 and 16 when I was doing it is it was still compact relative and you could run and gun.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. You can stick a cartridge in and
go.
You're ready to go. It's cool.
Yeah.
What I like about the Super 8 too that way is like, sure you should be light metering and everything, but I always heard that even though you wouldn't normally, you should. With Super 8, they're kind of just crappy enough cameras that the meter is really designed to go through that lens. So if the light meter, the internal light meter works, you should use it even if it's junk.
Right.
Because it's still going to be more accurate than do hand metering.
Because it's going through the lens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of set up for that already.
Yeah.
So as long as it's close to accurate, it's probably going to be better to use that. which means you kind of have to run and gun, just do it.
But that was quite what I loved about the old Super 8s and Standard 8s was the settings were cloudy, sunny,
Right.
and nighttime, and that's what you had.
Right. Yeah, see that I think that was just slightly after my time because I had some regular cameras, but even thinking about doing the reels like 16
Right.
for that short of a roll, and then flipping it
Yeah.
with a changing bag and everything, I was like, I could do that, but no, I'm just not gonna do that.
Right.
And those ones had on the camera that have the switch with the clouds and
Right. Yeah, Super 8 was great because of the cartridge.
yeah,
That was a great thing.
and I ran into that first, so I think the regular 8 would have been awesome, but I'd already seen Super 8, so it was like,
Yeah. No, I caught the very tail end of Standard 8, and I think the other reason I got into that initially was I found a camera a couple blocks from my house at a rummage sale for like $1, and it was Standard 8. But shortly after that, I think we only did a couple of movies, me and the neighborhood kids, before I discovered Super 8, and I never went back because I'd ruined too many rolls of film early on.
Yeah.
Because you got to change it in the darkroom. It's a learning curve there when you're little.
I never had any really kind of video or film when I was actually a kid. I was already 19 or 20 by the time I
Right.
touched anything. So I remember being kind of jealous, like it's late. I have a lot to do.
Yeah.
Like you hear about some of these famous filmmakers too. It's like, oh, they were brilliant. They just self-taught or something, but they had one when they were 10 or 8 or something.
I shot my first film at 8.
Yeah, it's like I'm like, but that's all these years of practice before.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter, I guess, but
yeah.
I just feel like, wow, I just have so much to make up for.
So you're still doing the video thing in Chicago.
Yeah.
That's good. But you want to branch out into making things, more props, more miniatures for yourself and maybe a client if they need it.
Right.
And what's that bug about?
I don't know. I thought it was unrelated to film. I felt like it was unrelated to film stuff, but because that's what I do now is film and video. It's hard to explain. I'm not really sure. I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out. That's kind of how I ended up chasing after you and coming here to get to know you and see what you do and stuff.
Right.
So I'm like, you've been really like nice about showing stuff that you do, even process stuff.
Sure.
That's like sort of hard to get at with people.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm like, oh, this is something I could go after a little more. I mean, my family's always been kind of artists, visual artists. Mm-hmm. We all draw and make things anyway, but I assume it's sort of second nature.
Right.
We're not, I don't know. Maybe I'm just self-conscious, but I don't feel like I'm amazing at it, but I know that I'm a little better than the average person with like just basic illustration and stuff.
Sure.
But I take it for granted. Oh, and also in the course of shooting over many years, like people's independent films and stuff, I end up making props and doing things when I can because it's fun and it's flattering sort of because it ends up fixing a scene.
Yeah.
I like the art department stuff, but I'm like, no, I'm not an artist. I don't do that stuff. I'm just helping. I need it. I'm the DP. I need it to look good. So
Right.
So I'll go and fix a thing or sometimes there's something that is probably fine or art department is like maybe almost there or doesn't. They're like, oh, don't worry about it. Forget it. I'll go home that night and like figure out how to make it a little better.
Yeah.
And bring it and it's fine. Or people are like, oh, cool, awesome. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's great. But I don't know what.
So there's an interest in there for you, and you don't know if it's external or just part of your family genetics.
Yeah, it's a little bit both maybe, but just seeing over time shooting film stuff, there's little pieces of it in there that I'm like, oh, wait, this is sort of maybe there's something here that I could do more of.
Right.
I don't know. It's hard to...
You're in the process of amassing tools now?
Yeah, so now I have a separate studio space, so it's big enough that I'm like, oh, I need the proper tools, a little bit by bit. It takes time. I've seen your studio now, I'm like, okay, I need to keep building it up. It's great. You have a really cool studio.
Thanks.
I go to estate sales a lot, which are it's the best way to get cheap, really good tools.
It is. It's a little known fact maybe, or it's a hidden thing. But yeah, I know a lot of buddies who, same thing, they go to estate sales and they find amazing tools at rock bottom prices.
Oof, it's awesome.
It is.
I've met a few, like sometimes I'll tell people that maybe they already know, or they're inclined to thrifting or whatever, and I'll tell them, "Oh, go to state sales. That's awesome." And then people are like, "Oh, great, cool. How do you do that?" Some people, I've met a couple people that I tell them about that. You should go to state, and they think it's really weird.
Well, the guy just died, and you're digging through his stuff.
Yeah, but I think some people, they don't get that I'm not just wandering alone into someone's house who's dead.
Yeah, right.
You know, they're like, "That's creepy. That's weird. Why you think that's okay?" I'm like, "No, I'm not just."
Yeah.
They're not laying there. You know?
Right.
It's a sanction. It's like
it's weeks
there's
or months
companies
later.
that do it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So I don't know.
That must be pretty robust in Chicago. I mean, it's a big city.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's I guess I can mention anything about it. There's statesales.net. I think they have an app now, and I think it's national.
Yeah. No, there's bunches of them.
So you just put in a zip code, and it'll tell you all of them. So if you're a big city like Chicago, we pick them, and then you kind of map out a route.
A strategy.
Yeah, it's sweet.
It's important to be at the one you're most excited about early.
Yeah. They have pictures too. I mean, you just get to the picture with somebody's shop in their basement, piled with stuff. It's like, okay, we gotta get over there.
Some people get rather rude. Have you been pushed out of the way at an estate sale early on? Do you do them early morning, or you don't get there early?
I haven't lately.
Yeah,
I used to get where it was the fighting thing. Lately, I've found that I've tried to, because I'm not super fanatical about everything else. I'm just looking for tools mostly now.
Right.
So I go almost purposely near the end, and then everything's like half off.
Oh, right. What's left?
So, and some certain tools are like nobody cares about.
Yeah.
So I go and just stock up, and I get tons of stuff for a couple bucks or whatever.
Right.
It's great.
Right.
I don't even know what it would be. Weird tools that I'm not sure I need. A lot of stuff you showed me, just weird little kind of odd picking things and kind of weird pliers and dental kind of tools that aren't dental tools. Weird old tools that I don't know what they're for, but they're great for like shaping or I don't know, gripping something or whatever. And that's stuff nobody wants. There's tons of that's left.
Yeah, a lot of model makers and prop makers are tool makers. They will get things specifically knowing that they're going to modify them to do something else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, of course you can go on. I go on Amazon and you get the cheap little wood handled clay tools or whatever.
Yeah.
You get a cute kit for with 20 of them for a few bucks or whatever.
Yeah.
But this is cheap junk.
Yeah.
It's fine for what it is, but the special tools are like weird things that aren't meant to be for that.
Right.
I don't know.
Like repurposing dental tools.
Yeah, exactly. And there's weird old tools, these weird old iron tools you find that just have nice curve to it or something that just ends up being the one you use all the time.
And half the time you're not even sure what it originally did.
Right.
Yeah. And
I think the clay tool I use most is some kind of curvy, weird wooden thing. I don't know where it came from. Maybe it was a friend of mine. I think it was from an estate sale. I don't even know what it is, but I end up using just that for 90% of everything.
Right.
And all the other cute tools I got from Blick or online or whatever, it's like
they sit there.
Yeah, and
languish.
Yeah, it's like that weird tool. You just find that one weird.
Right. So you're at a crossroads. You're thinking about trying to do more or something other than video, or
the weird thing is I think you probably know as well as anybody that practical effects are not.
They're
booming.
Dying. Yeah, they're on their deathbed.
It's not a booming industry.
No.
It's like we'll bring it back.
Yeah. Who?
Practical effects and I don't know. Maybe if coal mining or something, we can. If we subsidize it just right, we can bring it back.
Clean coal, practical effects.
clean practical. We can bring it back if just. But.
No, I hear young guys. They go, "Oh, I want to do that. I want to make models. I want to make props." And I tell them, don't, or just gird yourself for a career of lots of lows and being bummed out and long periods in between good jobs.
Right, or it's like, do you have a trust fund or?
Right. Can you do this as a hobby? Yeah, I'm lucky, but admittedly, I'm at the tail end of it all. So I hear these, people wanting to just start out in it, and I caution them very extremely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you said something like that to me, and I'm like, oh, I'm very aware of it. That's part of what's conflicting about it.
Sure.
It's fun. You have to really, really enjoy it, and sort of not expect a living out of it.
Right.
So, which is fine. That's why I'm like, well, I want to do it, but you can only dive in so hard.
Sure.
You need to sort of do the videos, normal stuff.
Well, that's just it. I mean, because of your background, getting involved in film when you were young, and then following that into a career with video and video production, you understand how sketchy this industry can be.
Right. Yeah.
So you have a leg up on some of these guys coming from the Midwest that have no clue about Hollywood.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can already imagine, like you're saying, I guess I can extrapolate the kinds of difficulties you'd have in that part of it too.
Right.
With, I don't know, producers and so on.
Right.
People that are going to be lost.
And it's difficult because then combine it with the fact that most of the shops that still do it are in large cities. I mean, Portland's unusual because it has an unusual amount of stop motion animation. But as far as props and miniatures goes, what's left of it is in places like Los Angeles, New York, London, not cheap places to live.
Oh, yeah,
so
for sure.
You also have that. It's not like you can just kick it in a town that's cheap. It's always, that work is always being done in expensive places.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, so is that true then about Portland? Do you think there's a kind of disproportion, I guess? It's more than...
I think because of Leica Studios having gotten, 5 movies now, and they've been consistent for about the last 8 years before they recently laid a lot of people off. They drew a lot of people from all over the world. I mean, there's people there from France, Britain, Denmark, China, Canada, all parts of the U.S. So they really were like a magnet for many, many, many years. And now they've let a lot of them go. But it reached a critical mass that Shadow Machine has moved their offices from Los Angeles up to Portland.
Oh, okay.
And there's other places.
That's what I wonder. So there's a couple others.
There's also Bent Image Lab, and there's House Special, which is a spin-off from Leica. And there's talk of more movies being made. Henry Selick's next movie is supposedly going to be made.
And they're doing stop motion stuff?
Yeah, it's all stop motion, all of it.
Wow.
Well, no, I mean, a lot of those other houses also do CG and graphic stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah. I guess you would have to.
They also do stop motion. So it's part of their arsenal, which is great because it's keeping a few of us that got laid off busy from time to time.
Maybe this is a weird question. Do you ever run into people that are like, I don't know, really young and it's hip to be in the retro kind of handmade things?
Yeah, there's some of that. And like it has this really huge reputation, and a lot of the younger crowd coming out here, even though there is still these other houses, it's like it's all about Leica. They want to get into Leica,
right.
And it has quite a draw. And that's what I mean is Portland's kind of this weird place right now for stop motion animation. I'd say you might be able to even argue that it's the capital of stop motion animation on the planet right now, at least in this brief period. I mean, they're still doing it in London. They're still doing it in other places. Los Angeles has a few houses, small ones. But it seems like critical mass is right now in Portland.
Yeah, that must be, because a couple of I've told other people I'm visiting here that aren't, connected to film stuff really or anything, say, oh, I'm visiting this friend of mine does, miniatures work and model making stuff. They're like, oh, Leica's here. They do stop motion movies and whatever. I'm like, I know.
Right.
That's kind of the point.
Right.
So, yeah, it seems like everybody knows that. That's the name people know here, which I didn't expect either.
Right. It's Leica, Nike, and Intel, and that seems to be what keeps this area rolling. Maybe not so much Leica anymore, but Nike and Intel, yeah. So.
Well, did you do professional model work before you moved to LA? Maybe this is...
No, I looked into it in Detroit, and there was 2 effects houses in Detroit way back when, but they were tiny. I think the whole company was like 3 or 4 people, each of them, and they were real interested in talking to me, and they looked at this crappy little portfolio I'd cobbled together, and they, I think they were interested in my enthusiasm, but they were pretty honest, both of them, that rarely would they need a prop and almost never need a miniature, and so one of their guys in there, like the DP, who also doubled as like the art department. You know,
Right.
it's like a common thing. And so it would have to be a pretty big commercial or local spot or something before they'd even want to branch out beyond that. So yeah.
So you knew then you were doing props and miniatures.
Oh my God, I was into special effects even before, you know, the watershed of Star Wars came out in '77, because a book had come out a year before that called Movie Magic by John Brosnan, which is a great book. I recommend everybody run out and get it, because it talks about the history of special effects just up to before Star Wars was released, and ruined it for everybody.
Oh,
it changed it dramatically. You know, it became a thing. But this book talks about everything going all the way back to the silent era and how it derived things from the theater.
Yeah.
And it's a really, really great historical book of special effects. Anyhow, yeah, I talked my mom into getting that for me in 1976, and it might have been one of the very first books that I read cover to cover, like a few times through.
Right.
And yeah, so I made my first movie at 8, and I made my first model at 5. And I think by the time Star Wars rolled around, it's funny because a lot of people go, oh, I saw Star Wars, and then it became an epiphany, and I knew I wanted to come to Hollywood and make models and special effects. Mm-hmm. And for me, I look at Star Wars as kind of like a last straw. It was like I was already really into movies and really into how they made them and the special effects and miniatures and stuff. And Star Wars was kind of like, yeah, I should just get on with it.
Right.
You know?
It pushed you over the edge.
Yeah, and I was only, you know, I was like 13. But that's supercharged. I'd been making movies, but I think I talk about this in another podcast. It was all like horror. It was like anything with blood and vampires and,
I did a little bit of
like that.
Too.
And but the minute Star Wars came out, it was all sci-fi all the time, and it was anything I could do to get a model in front of a starfield and blow it up.
Yeah.
And you know, and
Starfield. I've never attempted anything like that.
Oh, it's super easy. I read about it in Cinemagic, I think, or figured it out from somewhere.
I don't even think about it. I've been seeing you do some kind of spaceship stuff.
Yeah.
But it kind of doesn't occur to me, like, well, there's a spaceship thing, but then there's some other thing they do to put it in space.
Super easy.
Without computers. And I'm like, I don't need to know what that is, but I want to know what that is.
Oh, it's super easy. It's you get a black poster board and a pin, and you lay there on the carpet for about 2 hours, and you poke holes in it, and you can make little galaxies and star clusters, and then you put it up.
Light through it?
Yeah, but we didn't even have enough lighting. We only had a couple of work lights, which we needed to light the ship.
Poster board, so at least that thick.
Yeah, cardboard, you know.
Okay.
And black, and then we'd tape it to a window. Because we didn't even have like another extra. We had no money. Yeah, and it was beautiful. It looked great.
And that looks fine. Huh?
Yeah, and then you'd swing the ship through on wires, and the wires would blow the whole gag. But you didn't care.
Okay.
It was magic.
Right. Well, I guess nobody would do it today.
No, I don't know why you would. Or you put it on a stick with a model mover, and even kids that are 12 have access to all this camera equipment and tools that we never had.
Nobody. So none of the. I feel like some of those modern. There must. Yeah, of course they're all computers now.
Yeah, everything on TV.
I was trying to think like, well, somebody must do a little bit of that still, but digital backgrounds. But no, they just don't. Huh?
No, it's all dead. I'm a dinosaur.
Man,
don't follow my path.
Crushing dreams. I mean, couldn't you put I'm just thinking size. Maybe I guess it's obsolete, so it doesn't matter. But I'm like, so if you're doing like Star Wars, how do you get something big enough, seamless, and black? You just get. Is it still? Do they do it solid, or do they have a big duvetine like?
Yeah, they'll either just run it on like straight black, or like nowadays like a green screen. Yeah. Back in the day, it used to be blue.
Because you can't have a ship moving along and all the stars stationary behind it. It's got to move through space.
Dude, it's all CG.
But so when you did it as a kid, was that you have a little piece?
Oh, we had lock-off shots. We didn't. We weren't advanced enough to try and do that.
You like push it through and then
we'd swing it through on wires.
Okay.
Like a marionette. Like we'd be up above with a stick.
Right.
And it was all about timing, because we'd light the fuse of whatever explosive we'd packed into it. And it's like, go now. Go now.
Also, you had effects and everything, like the fire.
Yeah. All in camera.
Wow. That's sweet.
Very dangerous. Came close to burning the garage down a couple times.
I guess I had a brief little bit of that as a kid, but I didn't have my own cameras. But I had friends, a little more money. They had a video camera. They'd have VHS cameras,
Right.
and we try to do. I don't think we even understood what stop motion was or anything.
Sure.
So we get Transformers, especially the one, of course, that was like the fake Robotech, the big white and red plane, that jet plane that was
Right.
very obviously not made as a Transformer first.
Right.
But was still, you didn't know that. It was like, that's the best one, of course.
Right.
I mean, Optimus Prime, sure, no disrespect to Optimus Prime. Or early right Megatron, too. But like, you put it on a string and the other ones, and you swing it. But we were just in the yard. We don't care about backgrounds.
Right.
And we actually just wanted to play and have the story we go watch again, you know?
Yeah.
But a video, and I was just enamored of just, there's a video camera. I don't have access to this. So
Yeah, it was magic.
fly along. And we did the thing where you start and stop the camera, VHS.
Yeah.
Then you move it, start and stop. It's kind of stop motion, but...
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's enough of the principle. But they just hop real large, you know? Looks dumb.
Editing in camera with video.
This kid had money, too, so they had a pool table in the basement. So the pool felt was like grass, you know?
Sure.
So
It's like a landscape.
Yeah, G.I. Joe guy, like, running. And they had a big, fluffy, overstuffed brown couch, so that was like the mountain region, you know?
Right, of course.
And then you guys get the guys fighting. And for some reason, I didn't know video cameras, but the kid's dad, who obviously owned the camera, he has all these tapes, and we're like, we need to find a blank tape, or tape that we can tape onto.
Right.
And we don't want to, I don't know what these are. I didn't, and the guy was like, oh, we can tape over any of those. I was like, what is on these? You play them? His dad, for some reason, would set up a camera on a tripod.
Right.
His dad would come home from work, and he had a pipe or something, watch TV, sit in his lazy boy, and put the camera on a tripod facing him watching TV.
Wow.
And record hours of it. So there was tapes full of his dad watching TV.
Smoking a pipe.
Sometimes not, just watching TV. And I was like, what is it? And I fast forward, still there. I was like, Steve, what is this?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know. My dad does this thing. I don't get it. It's really weird.
Wow.
That's so weird. There was tapes full of it.
Right.
I'm not sure what the purpose was.
So you picked one randomly and...
So he's like, no, don't worry about it. Just tape over it. You know?
Yeah.
So we rewind one and tape over it.
Right.
Really weird. I forgot about that.
The days of videotape. Do you miss it?
Videotape? I had so little of it then. So no, I didn't know. I don't know.
Do you miss videotape more or film?
I guess I
you
had
burned
a
out?
time with both that.
You're burned out.
Right, but technically I was still, just because I liked the old stuff and I wanted to get into film really bad, but technically they were still kind of before my time. I got into video, learned some, but I was already getting older stuff because it was cheaper.
Yeah.
Seems obviously Super 8 was before my time too, but
Yeah, right. That's
I just
true.
wanted to learn film.
That's true. I was at the tail end of it, and then you came 12, 13 years later.
Right. So by the time I got to current technology with my current, present age, then
Right.
it was tape, but it was mini DV or like maybe VHS. So it was
Right, mini
kind of
DV.
the end of VHS.
That's awesome.
And I was obsessed with those. I used to
Right.
I used to actually steal a lot of that stuff.
Steal it.
But
A little bit of a klepto.
yeah, well,
Yeah,
as a kid,
Feed your habit.
a young kid.
Yeah. Well, how many 4K cameras do you own?
Shoot. Yeah, same thing. I'm a little bit like one generation back all the time.
You're still high def in it?
So I'm still high definite. I'm trying to kind of switch over now. I mean,
What?
I shouldn't even. This is like, if anybody ever heard this too, it's like, really? What's wrong with you? You shoot and stuff. But
Yeah. But the
'Cause
clients still are fine with high def.
yeah, if you have real small clients, you should be shooting like raw 4K or whatever.
Right.
In theory, and you should be like shooting log, so you color correct everything
Right.
with using a log or whatever. So I'm trying to get you. I like Panasonic stuff. I'm trying to learn Vlog, but slowly, because I know to me the kind of good lenses is sort of supersedes everything. I was gonna say the other word, but I'm not gonna say it. Kind of overshadows everything.
Right.
So
So you're a lens whore.
Yep.
You're way into the glass.
Exactly. Yeah, kind of. I don't have amazing lenses, but I just get that that's what's important. So
Right.
get something better. Don't use a kit lens, and I lean a little bit on these Broken-on lenses. They're kind of the knockoff cinema
Yeah.
lenses.
Yeah.
Those Korean lenses. They're
Yeah.
really nice.
Yeah. I think I had one of those for a Canon once.
They're great. It's
Yeah.
like, I shot with somebody else, so a cinematographer I really respect, and he was shooting music video for us on a Red camera and stuff.
Right.
I was like, oh, these are beautiful. What are these lenses? He's like, oh, this is Rokin. It's a deal. Just you can get these this kit of 3 for like $1,500 or something.
Right.
Well, that's a lot, but I'm like, wow, they're amazing. They're cinema lenses. You got the gears and everything.
Yeah.
It was sweet. So I went with those. And
have you gotten any lenses used from B&H?
Used? No, I haven't.
Oh, it's amazing because I think what they do so their reputation stays intact is they underrate their lenses. Because I can't remember what the lens was I got a couple years back, but they said, oh, out of 1 to 5, it's a 4. I forget their rating system, but they were saying 1 to 5, it's a 3+ or a 4, and it has this issue, it has that. Huh. And I'm like, well, it's cheap enough. It's real cheap. I'm gonna get it and see. And I got it, and it was a beautiful lens. It was like,
it's fine. Oh, the condition, like
the condition. There's no cosmetic. It everything worked. It was beautiful. I've rated it as like a 5 minus or whatever their rating system is.
Right.
And I was blown away. And then I started digging around online, and I find out they got a pretty good reputation for doing that. They'll underrate their lens, and then you get it, and it's usually better.
Right. I can see that.
Because no one wants to send that lens back.
Yeah, maybe because of the reputation. That's one of those things where they're like, if they want to give it whatever their top number is, it has to be like NIB.
Yeah.
Mint.
New in box.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like with the shrink wrap and stuff.
Yeah.
And some people are just, and they're a big company, so maybe they have to do that or
Right.
something. I mean, I think I got those Rokinon lenses from B&H because weirdly they do have better prices than Amazon even.
They
It's
do.
like,
They do such volume.
yeah, it's sweet.
So going forward, leaving Portland's vacation.
Yeah.
What's your plans for being a maker? What are you looking at doing?
Oof, I don't know. It might be Portland some of these days. I don't know.
Yeah.
But most likely back to Chicago for now and keep going.
Yeah.
Keep making stuff. I have a very vague hope or plan to do a stop motion movie that I'm slowly. That's part of what my trying to dive into this is.
A short or a movie?
I don't know actually. I mean, I feel like the script is somewhere in between.
Right.
A friend of mine has a script that I really like, and he was into stop motion for a long time. He's not a whole lot of a maker. He likes the writing and the editing and the idea behind it.
Yeah.
But I end up doing a lot of stuff, so I'm like, no, let's just do it.
A modest story, or is it like a grand epic?
It's kind of grand.
Uh-oh.
But I like. But it's the story stuff is basic enough that I'm like, cool. Let's try it. It's a period thing. It's like a 19th century in Chicago 19th century period thing, which tends to be a lot of miniatures seem to be like Victorian old-timey stuff, which I don't love, but it's cool. It's a cool challenge.
Sure.
I'm like, let's
That's
try
a lot
it.
of work.
Yeah, it's tons of work.
All that detail and gingerbread.
And some of that's like, I'll never have it to this. My current ability, and maybe even what I could learn in so many years, will never be to what I want to see in my head,
Of course.
And I'm like,
that's
well,
all of us, though.
Of course you want to try it, though.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So you're thinking that might be on the near horizon, or?
I hope so.
Yeah.
So now I'm slowly trying to figure out, build some little sets for it, and then started trying to learn armatures, just so I can. Oh, and I finally have a proper, what's it called, dragon frame, cool Bluetooth controller and all that stuff. I'm trying learning that a little bit.
So you have a lot of sets coming up. That's why you were grilling me this week on certain aspects of it.
Yeah, I've done some, but I just don't feel super confident about making these kind of fabricated walls to look realistic and be sturdy. And
see, that's something I take for granted because I've just done so much of that stuff over the years.
Yeah. That
when I hear you say, I'm hesitant, it's like a foreign language to me. I'm not sure what you're saying.
Right. Yeah, it seems simple, and sometimes you just get. Maybe it's probably been a long time for you, but like, I know I could do it, and it's so close, but I'm like, no, you just stop yourself and second guess, and it's like, no, if I went ahead, it would be fine.
No, I get it. I still there's parts of model making that I'm not expert at. Like I haven't done enough milling to say I'm a metal guy.
Yeah.
I've done some here and there. I could probably fake it, but I'm not comfortable at all.
Right.
So I get that.
And then hearing about kind of the bigger production stuff, the bigger kind of studio stop motion stuff, I'm like, it's intimidating. It's like, okay, no, this is a ton of people in 10 departments, and it's like And then I'm second guessing, like, why am I not able to make these 10 figures with articulated and rooms and,
Right,
exteriors and like, well, who does that? It's
right.
not everybody's that kind of, you know,
I mean, there are people you
versatile.
see them on Instagram where they're doing their own little stop motion movie,
Sure.
bit by bit over many years,
But yeah, it
and
takes
it's
a long time.
slow because they want to do it a certain way. But like at Leica and other places similar to Leica, there's a whole department that just does armatures. There's a whole department that just does eyes and faces. There's a whole department that just does hair
Right.
and paint.
Yeah, it's
And
sweet.
yeah, it is. It's
It's
great.
exciting to hear, but
It is.
it's people getting paid and doing it like clockwork.
It is. It is.
Well, and my partner that I'm hoping to do this thing with, I kind of get into that with conversation with him a little bit, even without me knowing. Really, I'm like, well, it's exciting, but I don't, these fun having a beer conversations of like, well, we can set it all up and get ready, and then we'll do this part in a month, in a couple months, and like, no, I don't think this is many
Yeah.
years.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
so I'm actually slow trying to ramp up mostly for that
Sure.
to learning, but I see it as a number of years, and
Well, totally. Even Leica, for all its money and pushing stuff through the system, on average, it's 2 years.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can see it, and that seems
This last one's longer. We won't go into why.
right.
It's just longer.
So, yeah, that's the thing. Well, like you were saying about people who are new to it, excited about it. It's like, how do you explain to somebody without just completely discouraging them? It's like, no,
Yeah.
this is a long-term
Yeah,
commitment.
it's hard. It's because when earlier I was joking around about like when a young guy or girl goes, "Oh, I want to do that. How old are you? I'm 19. I'm in college." And I want to tell them, no, learn the computer or go into finance
Yeah.
or something. But then I also feel bad because I see that it's a lot of this stuff is dying art, and
Yeah.
these skills are melting away.
Yeah.
And a part of me it's part of why I'm on Instagram and doing things like this is I want to get the information out there and keep the excitement going. But I'm conflicted because I also don't want to screw some young person's dreams. I don't want to tell
Yeah.
them don't do it, but no, you should do it, and then they have a life of misery. And
Yeah. I
so
guess there's no
it's
easy
hard. There's no easy answer.
Yeah, and it's not an easy way to say, like, I could see it being like, well, you're young, so you have the time to do it, but you're not going to make money.
No,
You're motivated and young and you
No.
have time, but
no.
there's no money. So find another job, but keep doing it.
Yeah, do it if you can. Try and carve it out as your hobby, as a lifestyle, as what you want to do passionately in the evenings or the weekends,
Right.
and just allow yourself, years or even decades to do a dream job and just do it at home and with some friends. And I don't know, it's safer that way if you have a real job.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
No, I mean, it goes way back too. When I got involved in the late 80s, people were telling me then, oh, why are you getting into this now? It's all over.
yeah.
And then The Abyss came out with the water tentacle. And
I remember that too.
and everybody told me, you gotta learn the computer and get the hell out of here. And here I am. I'm still too stubborn.
Maybe that's partly why I'm interested in it now, just because I've actually just started trying to learn some of the more like 3D and animation, computer animation stuff, and like, oh my god, it's overwhelming. And
Maya, things like that.
no, simpler stuff. Well, Blender,
Oh, okay.
and I'm good with Tinkercad, but that's Tinkercad. It's made for kids.
Right.
And then Character Animator, which is a newer one, which is cool. It's actually pretty easy to use, but still. But it just reminded me how cool these are. It reminds me that like, I love having my hands on things, having my hand, being able to see it. I
Right.
kind of have a better sense for form quickly with my hands than
Yeah.
I don't know, keyboard.
Yeah, I get frustrated with the computer and I'm like, I can just make this in an hour. Why am I fiddling around with something
Right.
I think I'm going to go rapid prototype?
I'd like to think that's true, but at least if anybody's else listening to it and is terrified of computers, like Tinkercad is my go-to for everything. Maybe I look like an idiot for saying that, but I can move like it's clay in Tinkercad,
Right.
so fast.
So you've got it down.
And if you're good, you can make complex models in it if you're patient with the limitations.
Right.
But if you want to get into something like that, it's fun.
Yeah.
And you can 3D print from it.
But back on a model note, you were so inspired by Wonderfest this year, their model contest.
Yeah.
that you're toying around with the idea of doing something for maybe next year or the year after.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the Wonder Festival was amazing. Like I had never been before, and I kind of went to see you do that, have the talk about Rocketeer, actually.
Sure.
But then I went to a bunch of the workshops. It was awesome. Well, there was a workshop with some of the guys who did some of the models in Moon.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is one of my
Steve
favorite
Haworth and
movies.
others. Yeah,
That was my favorite movie for a long time.
yeah,
It captures the classic
yeah. Steve's a good
sci-fi
guy too.
thing. Oh man, sweet,
Yeah.
so good. I had to work, and then those workshops, I'm like, oh, this amazing tip. This is great. Wait, I don't even do this.
Right,
Like,
right.
why do I need to know this?
But it was inspiring because in that competition room, there's a few hundred models.
Yeah, and I was like, wait, I should be doing this.
Yeah.
We see the models, and some of them, I'm like, I could do the basic model part, the kit model here, but then taking it further looks so fun.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah,
and,
some of those guys are crazy.
It's
The stuff
awesome.
yeah, really awesome.
One of those workshops, I think, was like how to make things with leftover sprue.
Right.
Just that, I was like, this is incredible. This is like
Yeah.
materials, and it's like you make really cool stuff.
And every model comes with sprue.
Yeah, and I was like, why am I not doing this all the time?
Right. That's cool to hear. All right. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up there.
Yeah,
I wanna thank my buddy Renato for coming to Portland this week and hanging out with me. And if anybody wanted to find out a little bit about you, where are you? You're on Instagram as
Geez, what is it? At Lovely Surreal Media.
yeah. Okay. Cool. If they're ever in Chicago and they need video help.
Yeah, so it's a documentary, small commercials, whatever.
Cool. Thanks, Renato.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, I want to thank Renato. Thank him for doing this interview, and it was fun having him out in the shop for a couple of days. And just an update, Renato doesn't go by Surreal Media anymore. He now goes by Ren's Camera Media on Instagram. And if you're in Chicago and need video help, give him a call. And don't forget to check out my website, michaelposser.com. I'll have some links there and more info about this episode. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with another episode of Wow, You Made That. I'll catch you on the next episode. Thanks, everybody. See you again.